Today, I'm excited to guide you through everything you need to know about our new direct streaming method using OBS. If you've previously streamed on other platforms with OBS, you might be familiar with concepts like stream keys and video output settings. However, our direct streaming approach introduces some differences, so it's crucial to pay close attention, especially during the initial setup and when adjusting those video output settings. For those who are new to streaming on live platforms with OBS, I'll also cover the essential features of OBS and how to seamlessly connect your OBS setup to Whatnot. Before we begin, I need to preface this by saying you'll need two important things before we dive into OBS. One, a very capable streaming computer. For Windows PCs, you'll need something that can handle playing most modern gaming titles. Something like a cheap laptop without a dedicated graphics card unfortunately won't do, and you'll run into a lot of issues with your stream. Google your PC specs, most importantly your CPU and your GPU, followed by OBS streaming, and someone on the OBS forums should have some insight. For macOS, any of the Apple Silicon computers, M1, M2, M3, and M4, excel at OBS streaming. If you're on an older Intel-based Mac, you'll likely run into a lot of issues. The second most important thing to prepare before diving into OBS is to check your internet connection and your network environment. Your internet connection is the backbone of your live streaming business, so make sure you're connected to a high-quality router using an Ethernet cable. Wi-Fi connections can introduce a ton of unexpected issues for our near-to-real-time streaming protocol that Whatnot uses. Now let's jump into it. Section 1. First time setup. I'll be doing my first time setup from macOS, but the same steps apply on a Windows PC as well. First, download and install the latest version of OBS Studio from obsproject.com. If you're on a new install, when you launch OBS for the first time, you'll need to grant it some permissions. Go ahead and accept all the necessary permissions. These involve giving OBS access to your camera and microphone devices, as well as some other system permissions. It's very important that you go through all of these steps and accept them all. You'll then be presented with the auto configuration wizard. Choose, I will only be using the virtual camera, since we don't want OBS to adjust any encoder or streaming settings just yet. Click Apply Settings. After completing the first time setup of OBS, restart your computer. Next, open Google Chrome and go to the Seller Hub on whatnot.com. Click the drop-down arrow next to Shows, and then head to Show Tools. This page is where you'll connect Whatnot to OBS and start and stop your live streams. Now you can head back to OBS. In the top menu bar, click on Tools, then click on WebSocket Server Settings. Check Enable WebSocket Server and make sure the port is set to 4455. Also check Enable Authentication. Manually enter in a strong custom password here. Don't use the Generate Password button. After entering in your custom password, click Apply and then click OK. Return to the Show Tools page on Whatnot. Enter in that custom password you just entered into OBS, and then click Connect. You should see that we've identified OBS as well as connected to OBS. If you try to connect and it fails to connect to OBS, make sure that your password is correct in OBS as well as here on the Show Tools page. The rest of this setup will be reliant on OBS profiles. A quick note on profiles, an OBS profile holds all of these settings and saves them in OBS. So anything here in the OBS settings section through all of these tabs, you can save these with different profiles. Streamers often use different profiles for different live streaming platforms. If this is your first time setting up OBS, you likely only have one profile that's named Untitled. If you use OBS to live stream on other platforms, we're going to want to create a new profile that's only used by Whatnot. Back on the Show Tools page, when you're connected to the OBS WebSocket, you have the OBS profile dropdown that shows all of your OBS profiles here. You can choose an existing profile here that you'd like to overwrite with the necessary settings to stream on Whatnot, or you can create a new one. I'm going to go ahead and update my Untitled profile here, since it's a fresh new profile anyways. You just need to select it, and then click Update Profile, First Time Setup Only. Updating your OBS profile here from the Whatnot Show Tools page will update most of the required settings within OBS needed to stream properly. There are 3 settings that the WebSocket can't update, however, and they're outlined here in this important section that'll pop up once you click Update Profile. We need to go into OBS, click on Settings, and manually change those 3. You'll see an outline of where they are. They're all in the settings and then output tab here. The first one, your rate control needs to be set to CBR. The second setting you need to adjust is the keyframe interval. This must be set to 2 seconds and you have to manually type that in. This does not mean that your stream will have a 2-second delay, and setting this to 2 seconds is very crucial for a successful stream. Next, head down to the Tune section and select 0 latency. Click Apply and click OK. This dialog box that popped up once you clicked Update Profile is not an error. This is just reminding you that it's important you have to manually apply those 3 settings. The rest of the settings on this page is a list of everything that the WebSocket was able to adjust automatically for you when clicking Update Profile. It's a good practice to go through your OBS settings and make sure that all of these settings were properly applied by the WebSocket. A quick note for users on Windows PCs: after you apply those settings with the Update Profile on the Show Tools page and confirm the 3 settings that you changed manually, you should close out of OBS and then reopen it before proceeding to the next step. You can close out of this dialog box here, and you can view those settings that the WebSocket changed at any time on the Show Tools page with the View Required Settings button. Once your OBS profile is updated with our required settings, you're all set. You can now go live on Whatnot directly from the Show Tools page. Your upcoming Whatnot shows will be listed right here, ready to start. Let me jump back to my main OBS scene with all of my sources so I can show you what it's like to take a show live. All I need to do is connect to the WebSocket. I'm going to click on Open Show, because the show needs to be open for the entire duration of your show. I'm going to go ahead and mute the sound so it's not coming out of my speakers or relaying back into the stream for any reason. Head back to the Show Tools page. Now I just need to click Start Show. OBS is starting. We updated the show token, which is our stream key, and we set the show to playing. OBS has also started streaming. You can see that over here. And now if we head to the live stream page, you'll see, hey, we're live on Whatnot. There's a couple ways we can go about ending the show, and the best way to do that is to have this Show Tools page still connected to the WebSocket. If you disconnected it for any reason during your show, it's no issue. You can just open it back up and click connect on the WebSocket again. It'll automatically save your password. From here, we can just click end and stop OBS. It'll ask you to confirm. Once you do that, OBS is stopped, OBS has stopped streaming, and we ended the show on Whatnot, all with a single click. If you end your show from somewhere else without being connected to the WebSocket, it'll just end the show on Whatnot, but the stream will likely still be active here in OBS. If that's the case, or if you end your show with a RAID or from a different device, you just need to make sure that you come back into OBS and click Stop Streaming here. That's it for Section 1 for the first time setup. Now we can move on to Section 2, where I'll explain all of our required settings and what they do for your live stream. Section 2, our required output settings explained. In this section, we'll go over the required settings that you applied using the OBS profile update earlier. It's crucial that you stick to these required settings. These have been tested across various computers and network connections to ensure smooth playback for all Whatnot viewers. Deviating from these required settings can affect your viewers' ability to load your live stream. Let's break down these settings and how they impact your show. First, we'll talk about the video encoder. Most of you should be fine using X264. It's been a standard in live stream video for years and years, and it's very widely compatible and has a lot of optimizations for live streaming. Depending on your operating system and your computer's hardware, you'll likely have some different options in the video encoder. Here, X264, like I said, is kind of the standard here with lots of optimizations. If you have an NVIDIA graphics card on a Windows PC, you'll have some software and hardware encoder differences here, just like I do on the Apple M2 chip. I have hardware and software as well. Software encoder is going to rely on your CPU, and hardware encoders rely on your GPU. If you Google your hardware combined with software encoder versus hardware encoder, you'll find a lot of threads on the OBS forums that do deep dives into encoders and how you can optimize them. For most people though, X264 and its optimizations are probably the best bet. Next, let's talk about bitrate. Bitrate is one of the largest drivers of quality for a live streamed video. With higher bit rates come higher quality, but they also impact how much data it takes from a viewer to load your live stream. At the time of making this video, Whatnot does not have multi-encoding or transcoding built into the platform, so every viewer that jumps into your live show has to load the exact same quality of video. You might be familiar with transcoding or multi-encoding on platforms like YouTube or Twitch, where you can select a lower quality video. That's not the case here on Whatnot. Whatnot supports a maximum bitrate of 3,500 kilobits per second. If you push your stream bitrate above 3,500 kilobits per second, you will have viewers that join your live stream that won't be able to load your live video feed. Next is the keyframe interval. The keyframe interval affects how quickly a viewer can load your video when they join your live show. It also has a slight effect on the quality of your live streamed video, so 2 seconds is pretty much the perfect middle ground for this. There's absolutely no need to go lower or higher than 2 seconds here. If you put this any higher than 2 seconds, the quality difference is very negligible, but when a viewer loads your show, they're gonna run into a 5, 6, 7, whatever you set it to, seconds of load time before your video appears on stream. This is also the case if your keyframe interval is set to the default of 0, which is auto. It's just gonna auto adjust based on what it thinks is best, and it's never best. 2 seconds is best, and it's crucial that you set this here. The CPU usage preset is also an important one. You get a little note here that says if it's set higher, it uses less CPU. Depending on your computer specs, this can vary greatly. If you have a really fast, modern, and strong CPU, I'd recommend using very fast as your baseline. And if you have a slower or older CPU, you can go up to super fast or ultra fast. On older or slower CPUs, the CPU usage preset also has a great effect on the latency of your stream, which means how quick you do something in real time and then your viewers see it on their end. So if you're struggling with latency, it means that your CPU is probably having a little bit of trouble encoding the video fast enough and it can't really keep up. So to get that faster, you just want to change your CPU usage preset to a higher one like super fast or ultra fast. Now let's talk about the tune. Tunes are something that come with the X264 video encoder here. Most of these settings here in the encoder settings are tied directly to the video encoder that you select. So if you select something outside of X264, you will have a different set of encoder settings here that we cannot help with. But for X264, you get this tune setting here, and zero latency is very good for delivering real-time video or near to real-time video to your viewers. In our testing, we've gotten it down to a few milliseconds of latency to the viewer with all of these proper encoding settings on a capable enough streaming computer, so setting your tune to zero latency is very important. And that's about it for our required video settings that will ensure a smooth streaming experience for you and all of your Whatnot viewers. Now let's jump into section 3, where I have some helpful info for those of you who might be coming from using OBS on Whatnot prior to this new method using the virtual camera. There's some tips and tricks that I have that'll make migrating over to this new OBS streaming method a lot easier. Section 3. Migrating from your existing 16:9 landscape canvas to the new 9:16 vertical canvas. In this section, we're going to explore using a group source to combine all your sources into one so you can move them and resize them all at once to easily fit your new vertical 9:16 canvas. This section will be particularly helpful for those of you who have already been streaming on Whatnot using OBS with the OBS virtual camera, as your canvas will look something like this, or it should. It's going to be a 16:9 widescreen or landscape canvas here with these extra unused black bars on the side, and all of your vertical sources should be fit to the center 9:16 portion of the entire canvas. And for those of you who do have this existing setup and you went through the first time setup in section 1 of this video, when you updated your profile, your scene within OBS probably looks something like this now. So let me show you how we can use a group source to resize all of these sources simultaneously without having to go through and change the size of each source one by one. So what you're going to do is go to the plus button here under sources, click on that and add a group source. I'm just going to create a new group here, and I'll just call it group since we can get rid of it after we do this. Just click OK. Now in this group source right here, you can just go ahead and select all of your sources that you want in there. by clicking on one, holding down Shift, and then clicking on the next one, and so on. Once you have all of those grabbed, you can drag them all into the group source at once. And now all of those are under the group here in the same order. And we can just toggle the group like this and take the entire thing. And then let's match it up to the top and the bottom, which this is where source alignment snapping comes in handy. And we can just go ahead and center that up there. And once we are all finished, we can just select all of those again, drag them out of the group, and then go ahead, delete the group, and we're good to go. And a note, since I mentioned source alignment snapping, you're gonna wanna go into settings in the general tab. That's right here, source alignment snapping. You can have any source snap to whatever portion of the canvas you want it to, which would be the edge of the screen to other sources and snap sources to the horizontal and vertical center. I like having all of these on because it just gives you good guidelines for where your sources kind of want to end up on the canvas. And that's really about all there is to know about group sources. Pretty simple, straightforward, put any amount of sources in a group, move it all at once. So now we can jump on over to section 4, where I'm going to teach you new OBS users some of the basic functions of OBS. Section 4, basic OBS functions for new users. So first up in OBS, we have what are called scenes. You can see that I have a few different scenes here, but we'll just focus on this brand new one that I just created, which has nothing on it, so it's just a blank black box. You can think of scenes as different views or layouts that you can switch between during your stream. So here's my main scene, which is titled Face plus Cards. As you can see, my face cam plus my card or product camera here. So that's one scene that I'll regularly use. That's the main scene I'll regularly use on my actual stream. Another scene you might have would just be something like a full face cam view that you have here. So I can just seamlessly switch between these two scenes while live for a completely different view. And you're able to customize these scenes and have as many of them as you want to switch between during your stream. And scenes are what hold sources. As you can see here in my main Face plus Cards scene, I have a lot of sources, almost an overwhelming amount of them here. And there's only 3 of them that are actually active right now, which you can see with the little eyeball icon here, and you can use that to just toggle on and off different sources. So we have my face cam, which is a group source, and that just has the camera border right here inside of it, as well as my Sony face cam right there. That's this camera. And then the only other thing that is currently active on here is the Sony ZV-1 camera, which is my main product camera here. All of these other large amount of sources that are living within this scene that aren't active or turned on at the moment are things that I use from time to time, or things that I might trigger while live on stream, press a button and like a GIF pops up, or sometimes I use like a piece of scrolling text that goes across my screen. So I won't be talking in too much detail about how to do all of those things in this video, but just letting you know why I have such an overwhelmingly large amount of sources here. And to further clarify what sources can be, I'm gonna hop over to this brand new test scene that I've created that doesn't even have a single source on it. And let's go over some of the different types of sources that you can add to OBS. So if you press the plus button here, this is how to add a brand new source or bring in a source that you have previously added, and we can just click plus there, and then you'll see an entire list of the different types of sources that OBS supports. Some of them are pretty straightforward, like image. This is how you would get like a .jpeg or a .png image to show up on your OBS canvas. Things like screen capture, similar to how like Zoom or Google Meet would capture and share your screen out, you can bring that screen capture onto your OBS canvas. Media sources are for things like audio or video files, think like MP3 files, MP4 files, MOV files. Anything that's not a still image would be a media source. And then likely the most important one that you'll be using most often is the video capture device source, which is how you're gonna bring cameras onto your OBS canvas. So whether you're using something like a USB webcam, or maybe you're using a iPhone or Android camera that has a plugin connected to OBS, or maybe you're using a high-end Sony camera that's fed into a capture card with HDMI out. All of those are gonna come in with this video capture device source here. So when I click on that, I'm just gonna say Sony camera new, since I'll just add a new source here to show you. Click there, and then you get the properties window for your source. Now every source has a properties window, but what's inside that properties window changes based on what type of source it is. So for a video capture device source, we can select our device from the drop down. In this case, let's see if I can just go ahead and add my face cam. And I know that's gonna be on my quad HDMI recorder in slot 1. And then you can choose your quality preset here. I would just stick with 1080 by 1920. This does have a 4K capture card input, but if I put this camera in at 4K, I'm gonna have to downscale it a lot, and that'll kind of diminish a bit of the quality. So if we go 1920 by 1080, I now have this camera here on my canvas that I can shrink, move around, pretty much do whatever I want with. We can grab this and rotate it if we feel like it, which will come in handy when I add in my second camera here. I'm gonna go back to the video capture device source, and I'll just say like Sony product camera. And I know that's in one of these HDMI recorder slots, and it's number 2. So I'm also gonna choose 1920 by 1080 here. And you can see this came in on my canvas sideways, which is expected. I just have my camera here. It's just flipped 90 degrees on its side. So since it's coming into OBS 90 degrees on its side, I can also rotate it 90 degrees on its side, which is just as easy as grabbing this little bar right here, or you can right click, go to transform, and you can rotate 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise, 180 degrees, flip it horizontal, vertical, etc., etc. You can do a lot of things on any source with this transform menu here. I'm just gonna go ahead and make sure this is centered on my canvas, and it'll snap to the top, bottom, or vertical or horizontal center here on my canvas. And if you did not watch section 3 because you weren't interested in group sources, the way you get sources to snap on your canvas is with the settings, general, source alignment snapping section. I personally like to have all of these on. We want to snap our sources to the edge of the screen, to other sources, as well as the horizontal and vertical center. Very helpful when lining things up. So now I've got 2 cameras on my scene. I brought those in as video capture device sources, but I can no longer see that face cam that we first added. Since I added it first, it's now underneath the one that I added second. So sources work in layers. So anything that's on top of another source in this list will be the one that is on top. So we're just gonna take this one underneath and drag it above the other one, and now we have it. Now I've got my dual camera layout here with my face cam as well as my product cam. And that's only just one source type. That's the video capture device source, and I used it to bring in 2 different cameras that I have connected to my computer. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and add in another source just to show you how easy it is with an image source here. I'm just gonna add in a simple camera border, so we'll just call it border new. And then you can just go ahead and browse for that border. Yeah, we'll just take this one, which is a .png image. I'm just gonna open that up, and that came into my canvas pretty big, so I can just go ahead, shrink that down, and kind of just look to match the outside of my camera here. And I'm just gonna do this pretty quick and dirty, but now we got a border around our camera, and that border is just a PNG image. You can find pre-made borders in a lot of places online, or you can use tools like Canva or Photoshop to make your own. Now another important basic functionality of OBS that I already slightly touched on in the first time setup section is OBS profiles. Now what a profile is, it's a collection of all of your settings here. So anything that you change within the settings section, from different stream services to your output and encoding settings to your canvas resolution and canvas size, all of that would be saved within individual profiles. So if you have a live streamer who streams on Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and they have different settings for each of those, which most different streaming services do, you would set up different profiles for, say, Whatnot, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, etc., etc. Now let's take a look at scene collections, which are one step above scenes. So you can think of scene collections, scenes, and sources as sort of a hierarchy of folders, much like you would have on your computer, where you can create a folder that holds more folders inside of it, and then within each one of those folders, you have a bunch of files. So the top of the folder hierarchy would be your scene collections, which can hold a bunch of scenes here, and then within each one of those scenes, you can have individual sources, which would be like your files. So if you want to stay super organized, or maybe you stream or record video for multiple different platforms, somebody might have a scene collection that's just for recording their YouTube videos that they don't want to interact or store a bunch of stuff they don't need within their whatnot streaming scene collection. It's just a good way to stay organized within OBS. Another important functionality of OBS is all of these guys down here, which are called docs, and you can access your different docs in the top menu bar with the docs menu bar section. This is all of them here. There are some extra ones that you can add, and oftentimes if you install any plugins for OBS, which we will not be getting to in this video unfortunately, they sometimes have their own docs associated with them. So if you just installed OBS for the first time today during this tutorial video, your OBS probably now, by the end of this video, looks something like this, as opposed to what my OBS setup looked like earlier when I started this video. This is the standard configuration for OBS, where you have all of your docs here at the bottom, and let me show you how you can move those over to the side to make a more vertical video oriented OBS window. So it's just as easy as grabbing the top of any of these docs, and then if you put them over on the left side, right side, top or bottom of the screen, it shows you an area where you can store them, or they can be their own window if you want them to be. But me personally, I like storing these over on the right hand side. So controls, and then we'll take our audio mixer, put it above controls. Same with our sources here, as well as our scenes. Scene transitions is not one that I use very often. You can do some really cool stuff with it. I personally just don't switch between scenes often enough to really make use of this. And even if you do make often use of it, it kind of just takes up space. So I like to just go up to the docs menu bar and uncheck scene transitions, since it's not something that I touch very often. And if I do need to touch it, I can just go in the docs section, bring it back, use it, and then hide it again. I just don't like it taking up extra space. And then what you can do with these docs as well is just change the spacing between them. I usually keep my scenes pretty short since I don't switch them very often. My source is pretty long since I like to look through this list. And then controls down here at the bottom, as well as I usually only have these 3 things in my audio mixer that I like to monitor, so we kind of keep that there. So you can keep this really nice, tight, off to the side, and organized. And now another really helpful thing for creating a true vertical friendly OBS window size is, so you can just shrink this down to the side here, but you can also make your canvas independent of the window. An explanation for this would be, like, if I shrank this down, it kind of keeps changing the size of my canvas like that. Now that doesn't affect how your canvas is output, but it does change with the window size here. So something you can do to stop that from happening and have your canvas be whatever size you want within your window also is a good thing for when you need to zoom in close to your canvas. If you're making some small adjustments or moving some images or other sources on your canvas, this is really helpful. So you can right click, go to preview scaling, and choose canvas. Now that'll either zoom it out or zoom it in, and now you have full independent control over your canvas. If you just click anywhere on the canvas here, hold down your space bar, and then use your mouse scroll wheel or trackpad, whatever you got, you can just scroll in and out. So I can get really close up in here, and I could really effectively, and you can also click to drag around, I could really effectively match up, you know, the top of my face cam with its outer border, make sure that everything's looking good in there before I take this live, and just also get a good look at, you know, how clean everything is looking. What do I need to clean up here? Is my camera in focus? Like, does everything look good? It's really helpful for that sort of stuff. So now your canvas lives independently of your window. This is also really helpful for if I wanted like a really, really small OBS window. Could, you know, shrink that down really, really thin and still have all of my docks in here nice and tall so I can actually use them, as opposed to having like a very short window like this where I'd have to scroll through a lot. It's useful for a lot of things. All right, and that's it for kind of the quick overview of the core or most important features within OBS Studio. Sources and scenes would be your most important ones there, but also some other tips and tricks to kind of help you keep organized and know what you're doing and know your way around the workflow of the OBS window and the OBS canvas. And that'll just about wrap up our tutorial of all the basics you need to know about streaming from OBS to whatnot. Of course, there's always more to learn when it comes to OBS Studio, so I'll make sure to follow this video up with a more advanced tips and tricks style video where I show you some more of the fun stuff you can do within OBS. If you have any questions or run into any issues, make sure you check the FAQ section on the Show Tools page first. Also, make sure to join the Whatnot hosts Discord server at discord.gg/whatnot. Any OBS related questions you might have should be directed to the OBS-help channel on the Discord server, where you can find me and a bunch of other helpful sellers hanging out ready to answer your questions. Thanks for watching and happy streaming.